Hello, everyone. This is Living Dead Cat, and I want to thank you for joining me for tonight's stream. Tonight's art and mental health topic is attachment types. It's not something I'm 100% familiar with, but that's why I won't be hosting this one. Tonight's host will be Panther, and we're waiting on some people to come into the chat. And until then, just gonna keep it a little low today. If you can't tell, my mental health right now is not the best. It's been a very long day, but I didn't want to take a day away from helping anybody else. And besides, this is supposed to be therapeutic for me too, right? So I'll go ahead and get started. And got one person in here so far, but we'll see where we go. Hey, Hydro Girl, how's it going? Just letting you know you're on mute.
I know, I couldn't hear anybody's talking, so I put myself on waiting to a tag.
Alrighty. Yeah, the beginning I mute everything so that I can do my intro and whatnot. No worries. Just waiting on Panther to get here. We don't seem to have too many people today. The tornado warnings and such from yesterday kind of, put everybody's errands on hold. So, so there's that. And I don't know what's going on with my voice. I don't know if I'm coughing in my sleep too much or what, but yeah, have fun with that.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, I just got notified that Panther is on his way. And he apologizes for being late.
What, like right now when I say, sorry, I'm late?
Yeah.
Time management is not a strong skill of mine.
I won't hold it against you.
You should. That's the only way I'm going to learn. So what did I miss?
The intro.
Nothing.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, as I mentioned to any viewers out there, you will be leading this one tonight. So far, there's not really too many people other than you guys. We may have fewer in the group tonight, but that's okay because anybody who watches this later on could very well benefit from it. And Jasper's already starting his shenanigans and trying to climb on me.
Okay, so as far as leading the discussion, in no way am I an expert on the topic at hand. It's just something that I recently have been doing a little bit of research into because of some personal things that were going on in my life. And somebody handed me a book by a psychotherapist who recently wrote a lot on attachment therapy, or I should say attachment theory and therapies for it, how trauma affects the way that we have relationships later on in life. Not just childhood trauma, although when it comes to attachment theory, I guess a lot of it is seen to start in childhood.
Alrighty.
But I guess in general, what does anybody else understand about it? So I know kind of like where we're going in on this.
Well, I didn't get to do too much research considering it's been a bit of a rough week. But
That's understandable.
Yeah, and then the tornado stuff last night. Well, I was streaming, and the sirens went off, so I had to stop. And it's been
Yeah.
a very, very long day today, so I wasn't able to really look into it too much. But the only thing that I could tell was different parenting styles had a direct relationship to the attachment types. And that was all I
Okay.
was able to get.
Okay. Well, from context, what does it make you think when you hear about attachment theory?
Um, how we function in terms of our attachments and just general relationships towards other people. Um, the difference between clingy and distant comes to mind.
Well, yeah, it's a lot of stuff like that. From the way from what I've understood about attachment theory so far, it basically is this whole situation that reads out that when we are infants and we are not capable of taking care of ourselves or looking after our own needs, we have certain people, or at least, ideally, we have people that we can look to in order to solve those needs. When we have a problem, we look to our caregivers or our parents to make the problem no longer be a problem, to solve the problem so we can go back to the experience of learning and going about our lives. Um, in some circumstances, apparently in very few circumstances from what I get, both parents or whoever is the caregiver is there often enough to give support to help the infant out without taking away the infant's ability to learn agency and free will. But more often than not, when it comes down to it, parents are either a little bit too quick to solve problems for baby or not present enough. Or what happens a lot of the times is it's very inconsistent, and there are some times when caregivers are very, very attentive and there all the time, and other times when the caregivers are distant and problems don't get solved. And all of this breaks down into how we will seek out solutions for our problems as we get older, and how we will attach certain expectations to people that will come across in our lives.
Okay.
Uh, just jumping into this, is there also a space in this conversation for the lack of attachment of outsourced care, aka the attachment to a screen and of ignoring or avoiding problems?
I'm not entirely sure. That was actually something I was going to open up to anybody who might have a little bit more connection with that in particular. I know I was adopted, but for most of my life, I thought that those were the only caregivers that I was ever going to have, so I didn't really connect in that sort of way. But I would definitely assume that there would have to be an entire spectrum for that specific formative experience.
Yeah, that's one I actually can't speak to, as I grew up almost exclusively without TV, and not like internet deprived in any meaningful way, but where it wasn't come home, watch TV for 2 hours, sit with an iPad for an hour, or anything. It was all right. Let's go do another activity. So I unfortunately, can't speak to it, but I was curious about just does that fit in as another option?
In the context of what I've been reading so far, that hasn't really come up, but that would be a fun thing to kind of discuss, even if it was only, even if it was only in a speculative fashion, because I absolutely assume that would definitely add a different layer to everything, especially since all of this starts, in at the very beginning of infancy. It's everything from, baby being hungry and crying for food and mommy trying to change the diaper instead and not picking up the right signals, all the way up to, coming home from school and whether or not you have attention, whether or not somebody is there to make food, et cetera, et cetera. And then, so yeah, I think that would be, I'm sure that there is definitely a whole layer right there.
I think that chapter is titled Baby Shark.
But okay, so here, let me read an excerpt from towards the beginning. here, at least as far as this to hear the actual, the educated person actually talk about what this is, as opposed to me sort of just relating my experience of reading this. Okay, so where's the part here? Okay, it's going to be kind of a long excerpt, so I'm sorry about this, guys. But as infants, we can't yet meet any of our own needs. So in order to survive, we have to bond and attach to caretakers who can provide us with food and shelter, as well as meeting our biological and psychological needs for emotional attachment, warm responsiveness, and calming physical touch. Popular parenting culture often calls this skin time, and it's known to be a crucial part of early childhood development. When an infant feels fear, distress, or discomfort, their attachment system is activated. This prompts them to quickly turn towards their caretakers or use proximity-seeking behaviors such as crying, reaching for, calling out, or later crawling and following their attachment figure. All these behaviors are attempts to restore feelings of safety, and in many cases, to restore actual safety too. If the child receives the support, reassurance, and comfort that they need from their caretaker, their nervous system then returns to a state of calm homeostasis. Infants and children who can't yet fully regulate their own emotional states depend on their caretakers to co-regulate for them. Being close with another human being helps children to feel calm. Further, being connected to and soothed by their caretakers over time teaches them how to self-soothe and regulate their own emotional states. As children, we want to know that our attachment figures are nearby and accessible. We need to know that they will provide us with a safe haven to turn to when we need them, which then gives us a secure base from which we can explore our environment. Bowlby, who's the original creator of attachment theory, he called this the exploratory behavioral system. When our attachment needs are being met, this system enables us to feel comfortable and free to explore ourselves, to explore others, and to explore the world around us. So that's like the basic, that would be considered like the ideal situation, is when, as an infant, if you have a need, it is met. And then you can go back to feeling safe. And as an adult, this will translate. If you've had that sort of good background and that good basis, and you've built the secure attachment system, it gives you the sort of situation, for example, where you can wake up in the morning and you can kiss your partner goodbye and you can leave for work, and you don't have to worry about the fact that safety and security and attachment is going to be protected even while you're not directly right there looking at it, because over time you've managed to build this secure attachment style. I think one of the biggest issues with it is that all the way from infancy up to whatever current point people are at, things are never the ideal.
Yeah.
Like, there will always be, in the course of human experience, times where you were disappointed, times when your needs were not met by someone that you expected to or relied on to do so. There will always be certain things that make you wonder, like, well, I believe that this connection is strong, but what if I don't know this? What if I don't know that? And a lot of that's just based in the way that we've already been forced to experience the world, because unfortunately for everybody, this world is an experience that's forced upon us. We're gonna have to experience it. We're gonna have to interact with it in some way. So, does anybody have any thoughts as to particular things that might at the childhood level, any ideas of things that might help to promote secure attachment?
I mean, I think, touching on what I said previously, I think the fact that in growing up, a lot of, and this wasn't infant, but this was, while still very, very young, that I, essentially, I know for a fact my parents put in an active effort to make it so that the TV wasn't just always on in the house. It was on, like, it was on. If it was on for a purpose. It was, well, usually like to watch like MythBusters or like a specific show, but was never the answer. It was never like just, all right, it's on to a channel and has. And the lack of that meant that my brother and I had to go and create, formatively go and create our own entertainment, which led to hours of us like get on like razor scooters and just circle around and pretend at each other and conjure imaginary worlds, and that I think in being forced to be a little self-reliant at that age helped me to be more self-reliant now. Though also the fact
Absolutely.
that I usually always had my brother, who I could turn to if I was bored, has also meant that I'm usually best entertained with exactly one other person to turn to and banter and talk and entertain with. I think that would have been very different if I had more than one sibling or had been an only child and had to entertain myself by myself.
Yeah. Okay. No, I can absolutely see that, and that's definitely one of the things that that Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, the lady who was helping him to come up with this theory, it's one of the things that they were talking about. If your caretakers are able to meet most needs most of the time, you develop a secure attachment, and you definitely want to allow your child to have that entire concept of self sufficiency and self reliance, that ability to give that child responsibilities, to build on also. And whereas that doesn't necessarily go directly into attachment theory, I think it's one of those necessary foundational points where, and that's one of the things they go into very much in this book. If all of your needs are met all of the time, 100% of the time, possibly even before you intend to ask for the thing, or if somebody is consistently controlling where you don't really get to express your needs because a person is always providing for you what they believe that you need, then that can lead you to a completely different type of attachment disorder.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Go
I
ahead.
think I think I'm thinking a little bit older than what I think this was explicitly written towards, but I was just thinking like
Well, again, I'm just
sibling
at the very
attachment.
I'm at the very beginning. This book that I wrote was actually it's to link together this entire concept of attachment theory and then like how to work together in ethical non-monogamous relationships. It's definitely aimed at adults, but just a lot of this I'm trying to just cover the whole,
Oh,
infancy
absolutely.
through teenage area all at once so I can get that out of the way so we can get on to the adult stuff.
Oh, I was gonna say, like my piece here was sibling attachment. Is that like
Sibling attachment would definitely count, but like unless your siblings are considered your caretaker, that would be more of a subsequent attachment situation as opposed to the
yeah,
initial attachment situation.
which is what I was saying was I think I'm naturally looking a little older because it's what I remember
Well, of course, of
versus
course.
what I've been told about back then.
Well, yeah, of course. And then as far as that goes, like I don't remember being an infant either, and I personally in my situation, even if my parents had told me about how I acted or reacted or was treated when I was an infant, I wouldn't believe them. Uh, so if that tells you anything about what my attachment style is, but so so but as far as all that goes, like if things are all told, if you're being raised in the sort of way that allows you to explore and to be self-sufficient and go out into the world and make your own connections while knowing that your basis is going to be secure, then that allows you, as you grow up, to at least have the foundation to make good attachments, like making better attachments with your siblings, knowing that, being able to even reach out and trust those older siblings as people who might be able to help you is going to be based on whether or not either A, you had a good attachment foundation that was already built, or B, if these people came in and helped to rectify some of the gaps in your attachment learning. I know a lot of people who, for example, were unfortunately very, very harshly abused by their parents, but who found solace in an older sibling who ended up becoming the caretaker that they actually attached to and built their entire attachment foundation on. So, but moving forward. Oh wait, what's up?
I actually have something that I'd like to share on some of the information that's already been done.
Yes,
Um,
please, please.
I know that it was more geared towards when I was older, but I know that
Mhm.
my mother was a little bit distant with me. She already, I mean, I was raised like I was an only child, even though I was the second child. And near the end, it was to the point where she would just, like give me a 20 and say, go to the movies, So anytime I would try to reach out or bond or try to please or anything like that, I know that was an issue that I've had for a long time, and I've been going over it with therapy. But she pretty much just, to quote, threw money at the problem in hopes it would go away.
Yeah.
Which really was detrimental to my spending habits and learning how to spend and manage my money properly. I know that had caused quite a few issues with that in my future, and not as much in my present, even though sometimes still living paycheck to paycheck. I have been able to manage my money a lot better to where I can make, more adult purchases like the new couch and to be able to pay, those bills and those things on time and whatnot. But it took me until I was almost 30, honestly, to get to that point.
Yep.
And then also, she worked from home a good portion of my life. But when she didn't, I mean, it was a single parent household. And Peach, I saw that you mentioned that single parent households will definitely be detrimental to the child's development, especially when childcare isn't affordable, or being a latchkey kid as I was. I let myself in. I mean, a lot of things I was a lot more independent with, but emotionally, not really.
When there's just not enough parent to go around.
That as well. I did see my dad on every other weekend, which was nice, but he also usually worked on the weekends, and I would go with him to his job, or some trauma issues happened during my stay with my dad that wasn't as a direct result of being there. Not his fault, but the issue with my stepbrothers and his PTSD, etc. But I know that there's been a lot of different kinds of traumas that can also relate to my clinginess, so to speak. And
that's all stuff that I was just about to start getting into, actually.
And just in general, the fact that I'm in constant fear of being abandoned by someone at some point in my life.
Yep.
So
here we go. Like this line here, children develop attachment styles that are more secure or more insecure depending on how well their parents are able to be a connected and responsive safe haven for them. If their caretakers are able to meet most of their needs enough of the time, children usually have a secure attachment. But if they experience their parents as inconsistent, inaccessible, unresponsive, or even threatening and dangerous, they adapt by developing more insecure attachment styles. If our attachment figures were absent or scary to us as children, we didn't develop our ability to freely explore and to learn about the world and about our own abilities. When this happens, we develop insecure strategies for engaging with others. We may become more vigilant and anxious, or more avoidant and dismissive. And those four words would be the four axes of the insecure attachment style that hopefully we'll be able to get into today. But vigilant, anxious, avoidant, and dismissive. And there are other ways that they actually that they describe those throughout the book. But basically, you have the ability to activate, like they were talking about, when you're an infant and you need something, you activate your systems to help you get those your attachment system. You either activate it, or eventually you learn one of the two very bad things: deactivating, which is like turning down. That would be kind of like pushing away, closing off. Turning more internal, or hyperactivating, turning that up. You turn up your needs crying louder, breaking things, even negative attention seeking behaviors in order to get the attention of that person who you need them to be paying attention to you for whatever reason at that moment. What's that?
I turned down. I'm pretty much, I think I'm kind of all over the board, attachment wise. This concept got introduced to me, I guess a few years ago, because I have a panic disorder and I'm OCD, and I struggle with my mental health. I grew up in, I guess the abandonment situation. My parents both worked full time. My mom was going to school at night on top of working. We were very poor. We lived in a scary neighborhood. They weren't really around. My dad was, he was too hyper-focused on the things he enjoyed in life that he pretty much ignored the family.
Yeah.
My sister ended up having to caretake, and so she hated me a lot, and she was excessively cruel to me throughout my entire life. So I did not get my needs met. I spent most of my time probably in my room. I learned how to cook and clean, and it's probably why I don't like doing it now, because I had to do it. I had to. They could not take care of the house. It was my and my sister's responsibility to take care of the house, to make sure that there was food cooked.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's so much extra responsibility to be heaped on top too. Like, I'm actually kind of curious how that affected both of your attachment styles.
Both, as in my sister?
Yes.
Well, neither one of us have been successful in a relationship.
Okay.
I got close. I got, I was with somebody for close to 4 years. We got engaged. The wedding was set, and then he decided he did not want to be with me anymore. And instead of telling me, he literally abandoned me in the house. He was there, but he wouldn't speak to me.
That's awful.
Until I made the choice to call off the wedding, and my family and I helped him move out because he wouldn't tell his family.
Seems like there was some dysfunction happening on that side of the fence.
Oh, there was a lot. I tried to get him to seek some counseling. He would go, but then he would stare at the counselor and wouldn't actually speak to them.
Yeah.
So, I can't do anything other than try to support and help him open up. But if he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to. I can't do anything about that.
Pretty much, and everybody's journey is their own. You can only help those people who not only wish to be helped, but also are ready to receive help instead of needing to have things go exactly their way, because oftentimes getting through things like this means introspecting about yourself. It means learning something new about yourself and changing the way that you've been going about something in the past. And until somebody is ready to do that, there's very little that any other person can do to convince them or get them to do so.
And it's not easy either way.
No, it's really not. It's a struggle.
The environment I grew up in, it wasn't just that they weren't around. It was when they were around, they hated each other. My parents didn't like each other. And,
that is also a big thing. You see how children experience the connection between others definitely also informs how we will be able to make connections later in life ourselves.
But they wouldn't split up. They still haven't split up, but there's like no relationship there, and I don't think that my sister and I have both spoken to each other as adults and realized that we in no way ever want to have a relationship with another person that would ever resemble the family life we grew up in.
Yep, I can very much agree with that statement. My parents are also still together, and I, for the life of me, can't figure it out because they sleep on opposite floors of the house and basically have nothing to do with each other. And now they're raising another batch of children because my sister's children ended up living with them.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about admitting a mistake that some people admitting that you've made or even that what was once a good decision is now a mistake. That is really hard for some people. That I can sympathize but not empathize with that. But again, it's realizing that something isn't working is absolutely, there's a time and place to admit that something isn't working and to end it so that you can make space for something that does work.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be.
They're all the exploding ones, though.
Yeah, there's definitely supposed to be there should be a solution. There should be a protocol, I should say, for in every relationship, romantic or otherwise, for someone to literally just be like, "My bad, I screwed that one up. That's on me. Okay, let's move past it." But a lot of the times, I mean, I know for me, sometimes it's difficult for me to admit when I'm wrong if I feel like I can brute force my solution to be the correct one, because so often if I've been wrong at something, it's been capitalized on so much that nothing was actually able to get done afterwards. And it sucks. So
I know that it's recognizing and admitting when I'm wrong or have made a mistake has been something I've been working on, and because I know I've also been terrible at that in the past.
Same. I think we all have.
But yeah, did you guys want to hear about the original 3 insecure attachment styles that were, first come up with when this theory became a thing?
Sure.
So as an adult, the particular ways that you can be given a bad attachment foundation tend to consolidate themselves into 3 particular types. And I'm going to read this little forehand right here. Just there's these 2 little paragraphs because they do explain. I mean, it is a theory and it's still a work in progress. And of course, especially when dealing with mental health, there is no template that is going to work or be perfect. Yes, exactly. So, there goes my phone hitting the ground. But before we get into these particular styles, I'd just like to read what Ms. Fern has written. She wrote that attachment wounds can occur for many reasons, and it is imperative to emphasize that attachment ruptures are not always the fault of one's attachment figures. Attachment theory is not about parent blaming. Disruptions in attachment can occur for various reasons outside of the attachment figure's control, such as physical or mental illness, hospitalizations, accidents, the needs of other children or family members in the home, death, poverty, housing instability, war, and other social factors. And I would also add that sometimes these attachment wounds aren't necessarily things that started in childhood. You can have a wonderful upbringing in a very loving and caring household and be given a good foundation. And very early on in your history with people outside of the home, you can experience deep trauma and end up with these attachment wounds. And the second one, and the second bit of information is that attachment styles are not static. If you experienced an insecurely attached childhood, you can still go on to have healthy, securely attached adult relationships, experiencing what is called an earned secure attachment. Your attachment styles are survival adaptations to your environment, and since they were learned, they can also be unlearned. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out, because, I mean, there are definitely times in my life when I can say that I've related to all 3 of these first given insecure attachment styles, but through a lot of work, I and a lot of people that I know have been going through in their lives, it's possible to heal these sort of things. So the first one is the avoidant dismissive attachment style. These are all slashed. I would say they're hyphenated, but it's because the original theory was come up with in the 70s, and Mary Ainsworth came up with these terminologies in 1978, but they have been updated since then. So originally it was called avoidant, now it's called dismissive attachment style. The children who were classified with the avoidant, oh, not children, in adults, please, thank you. Since it's all tied so much in this doctor's mind to childhood things. I mean, I got this whole thing of like adults experience trauma too, man. Get out of Freud's butthole. It's not everything ties back to childhood trauma. Just because Freud had a really messed up childhood doesn't mean that everything's about that. Okay, here we go. In adulthood, the child.
Adulthood to go around.
Oh yeah, man. In adulthood, the childhood avoidance style is referred to as dismissive. A person who is functioning from a dismissive style will tend to keep people at arm's length. Usually priding themselves on not needing anyone, people with this style will tend to take on an overly self-reliant outlook, valuing their hyper-independence, and often seeing others as weak, needy, or too dependent. Although they may present as having high self-esteem, people functioning from a dismissive attachment style often project unwanted traits onto others and inflate their sense of self to cover a relatively negative self-image. People with this attachment style have reported lower levels of relationship satisfaction, trust, and commitment, as well as having more negative views about sex and lower levels of sexual satisfaction when married. Going through they have a bullet point section, which I think will be easier for the open forum sort of situation we hear. Statements that someone with a dismissive attachment style might make include, here we go. I am generally comfortable without close relationships and do well on my own. I want to be in relationships and have closeness with people, but I can only tolerate closeness to a limit, and then I need space. I frequently don't know what I'm feeling or needing, and or I can miss cues from others about what they are feeling or needing. I either struggle with making relationship commitments, or if I do commit, I may secretly have one foot out the door, or at least have the back door unlocked, metaphorically speaking. I am very sensitive to any signs that my partner is trying to control me or interfere with my freedom in any way, and I don't like the word sensitive. Some of the ways that Jessica Fern writes, I find her very amusing because she's clearly a very brilliant psychotherapist, and I think she's an atrocious writer, but it's so much fun to read. Okay, the second style would be the anxious preoccupied attachment style. Skipping over the child section again. Preoccupied attachment as an adult. People with this attachment style demonstrate an intense focus and heightened concern about the level of closeness in their relationship. A defining factor of this preoccupied style is how the person's hyperactivated attachment strategy not only amplifies their attachment bids, but also intensifies their focus on their partners. Because of this, they may end up constantly monitoring their partner's level of availability, interest, and responsiveness. The partner of someone with a preoccupied attachment style may then feel like this constant tracking of relational misattunements and mistakes is controlling of them. But for the person with a preoccupied attachment style, this behavior is less an attempt to overtly control their partner than it is a symptom of their attachment system being overly sensitive to even the slightest sign that they might be left. From their perspective, they're not trying to control their partner, they're just grasping for a relationship they're afraid is slipping out of their hands. I have to read.
Big time.
Nail on the head.
Yeah, I have to read this second paragraph directly out of this because this one has the opposite sort of like adverse side of it. Hyperfocus on the other can lead to a disconnection or loss of self through overfunctioning and overadapting in the relationship in an attempt to maintain and preserve the connection. Frequently consumed by fears of abandonment, people functioning out of a preoccupied style will easily give up their own needs or sense of self, yielding to the needs or identity of their partner in order to ensure proximity and relationship security. Due to their history of unpredictable and inconsistent love, they can have considerable challenges with trusting that their partners truly love them. They may frequently fall into self-critical and self-doubting loops, questioning if they are truly worthy enough to receive their partner's love. And it goes on much more in that vein for another 3 pages.
Yeah, yeah, nail on the head.
So one of my traits for the anxious attachment is when I date, if I'm particularly attracted to a person, if I really like them and I think they fit well into my lifestyle, I pay very close attention to patterns, how often they text me or trying to see me, things of that nature. And if something shifts and it slows down or whatever, it makes me extra anxious that they're pulling away, that they may be ghosting, that that I misread how much they actually liked me, and it can bring on some low self esteem and fear that maybe I'm just too jacked up to date.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can understand how it can feel like that, but I mean, the first thing to really get to is like understanding these things about yourself, and then trying to realize when they're happening, and trying to then, and this is the hard part, objectively discern the validity of the behavior. Like, do I need to be doing this? And if I need to be doing this, does this mean that I'm in a safe place?
Mm-hmm. I think part of it was magical thinking that I had growing up, not understanding the difference between magical thinking, and the self-fulfilling prophecy situation where you think something happens, so you get clingy and you push them away inadvertently
And,
because becoming who.
yep, and then
Yeah.
and then it makes what you were worried about happen. Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think I put myself in that pattern, several times, not realizing that was even a thing.
Okay. So oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And I was going to add on to that a little bit with the self-sabotaging aspect of it. I definitely get into those loops of being unsure, and I've been chalking it up to anxiety alone, but apparently this is something deeper than that.
Yeah.
I will get that thought in my head of, okay, well, I used to get this all the time, now I don't. What's changed? What have I done? Uh, that kind of thing. And then my fear of confrontation and everything, it's hard for me to open up and ask these things instead of, going to somebody else to talk to about it. But I've,
Yeah. So you don't even allow yourself to be able to confirm or deny what you're feeling.
yeah, I have
Yeah.
worked on that quite a bit over the last few years, and I do think I'm getting better at opening up about it, especially
I
in
would agree.
relationships. Ouch! Sorry, Jasper's crawling on my back and it hurts.
I would definitely agree. You've definitely there have been a couple of times, for example, that you've mentioned to me that you were uncomfortable with certain things, but you didn't let it freak you out or panic you too hard, and you did come to me and talk about it, and you were open to the discussion and to the reassurances that I was able to give. So
Yeah.
I'd say that yes, that you are doing amazingly when it comes to understanding and owning where you are feeling, and making sure that the people who care about you, who need to know that, do.
Yeah, and the downside to that is I can do that with you because of the level of trust I have with you. I don't have that fear of, abandonment or anything like that because, well, one, I understand how chaotic things can get with you. Two, I mean, it's been like 20 plus years and we're still
Yeah.
in contact
Yeah.
and all that other stuff. So there's no longer that fear.
If your
Uh,
brain is like, oh, he's going to leave, you can just be like, well, he's taking his time, isn't he?
yeah, I mean, and so anything that's newer, my longest relationship has lasted maybe 2 years. So anything
Yeah,
prior to that, I think, is the panic point. Uh,
I can see that.
but one that I'm in right now is slightly over the year mark, I think, by now. Almost. Well, maybe not. Maybe in a couple
Just
months.
about, just about. It's getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting there. But there's still that fear, and he's been wonderful about constantly reassuring me. And I
Mm-hmm.
open up whenever I have these moments of doubt and whatnot, and he's been just absolutely phenomenal. And I'm trying not to cry about this because, yeah, it's been a long day, and it's always at the back of my mind. It's like, well, this is too good to be true. What's the catch? That kind of thing. and
Yeah.
self-sabotaging thought process has not ruined it yet. And I am so
Okay.
grateful for that. And
Word. Hell yeah.
yeah,
Well,
those
okay. Let me
cycles
let me
are just
let me ask you guys. Let me ask you guys if some of these statements, since you guys both seem to relate, since Hydro Girl and Kit seem to both agree with, both relate to this particular attachment style. Let me ask you if these are some statements that you guys might make or that you can relate to. Statements that someone with a preoccupied attachment style might make include, I am very attuned to others and can detect subtle shifts in their emotional or mental states.
yeah.
Um,
Sometimes
I tend to over focus on my partners and under focus on myself.
definitely. I went to a toxic point at one point.
Mm-hmm.
It got
I
really
need, yeah. I need a lot of reassurance that I am loved or desired by a partner. However, when my partners give me reassurance or show their desire for me, it either doesn't register for me or I have trouble receiving and believing it.
yes and no on my end. When I get that reassurance, it works for a while until the next bout.
That's fair.
And Peach says she can relate a lot to the second one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get resentful or take it personally when a partner spends time away from me.
Sometimes I keep yelling at myself internally to stop feeling that way because I know it's not warranted, and to have
Yeah.
those thoughts. And I continue to try and reassure myself with the last time they reassured me.
Mm-hmm.
But I know
All
I'm
right.
doing all the talking here. Hydro Girl, let me know if you've got any connection with these
Yeah.
statements.
Yeah, please. I'm sorry.
I'm semi distracted.
Yeah.
There's a reason. So there is, this stream that's going on while there's also another stream going on by the
Oh.
person who's been talking to for over a month, the one that kind of shifted his communication with me and kind of made me freak out.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I'm kind of trying to pay attention to his show.
No, I super understand. I super understand.
Mhm.
Okay, I
And
got. Okay.
so the what I did recently that went against the grain was, so there are two things, right? The abandonment. I always wonder if they have other motives for keeping me around and it not actually having anything to do with them actually liking me, but they want something from me, right? So
Yeah.
there's one of those anxious thoughts that loves to like get up in my head. The other thing was I always want them to reach out to me, right? I want their attention. I want them to, like me and all that kind of stuff. The hard part is to convey that to them. Rather, it's hard to, or I I guess somehow came up with this expectation that they would just pay attention to me rather than me telling them I actually need them to. And so this past round of lack of communication upset me enough where I straight up asked for it. I said, look, I want to hear more from you, and I don't know if you're interested, so I need you to tell me because I actually need you to talk to me more than this. And that changed everything. The communication is back to being daily and making more plans to see me more frequently because I actually opened up my mouth and told them my needs rather than hoping they'd figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've definitely had to express to people in the past that as much as I want to be able to help and to fill whatever role is expected of me, I unfortunately am not a mind reader, and even if I was, that would be so invasive that I probably wouldn't do it to people. So, if there is ever a problem, my rule is that please tell me if there's something that you want or need from me, please tell me. I won't always be able to give it, but if I don't know that the need exists, then I can't do anything about it. And, as much as I've said that throughout my entire life, there are definitely so many times in my own life where I need something, and it's not a want. I need this in order to be okay, and I just can't bring myself to reach out for it and ask for this very simple thing that I know I would get if I actually asked. Because somewhere in my brain, I'm like, but they should see that I'm uncomfortable and at least ask me what my problem is, right? And that's, I feel like that's a normal thing. We all want to some extent to know that the people that we care about care enough about us to look at us and to, to know us well enough to be able to kind of tell where we're at,
Mm-hmm. I behaved like a mirror would be the best
Oh.
way.
Chameleon.
Oh, yes. So it's almost impossible, even if somebody was paying attention, for them to figure out what it is that you actually are in need of.
Right, because if they are keeping me at arm's length, that's where I'm keeping them too. If they're not flirting with me, I'm not flirting back. If they're not texting me, I'm not texting either. I don't want to chase if they're not interested in me. I will respond and I will banter back and forth, but if you leave me running it, I'm stopping. I'm out.
Oh man, and see, like,
the amount of effort you're going to put in.
I'm sure that I come across that way, but it's mostly just because I'm incredibly absent-minded, and as Kitty pointed out, my entire life is chaos. I've had to kick children out of this garage that I'm here talking to you guys from like 5 times. So if somebody's not texting me 90% of the time, I am not ever going to pick up the phone and send a message to them. And that does not mean, for example, that I'm not thinking about the person, or I'm not wanting to reach out to that person, or even that I don't have something I specifically want to say to that person at that time. But like every time I pick up my phone and start typing something into it, something happens and I have to put it down. Right now in my inbox, I probably have 5 messages that are either completely done or half done that I just haven't sent to anybody, and then when they actually text me, I'll be like, oh yeah, before I can send them another message, I have to send them this one.
I can definitely attest to that. But I also have known you for a long time and know that that's just part of your life.
Yeah, that's just me. New people getting to know me have definitely, it's a big problem I've had with one of my partners recently, is not picking up the phone and getting in touch to, express that I wasn't going to be able to show up for a planned hangout, which is entirely my fault. But like anybody who's known me for a long time, if there was a question about it, they would have reached out to me, and if they couldn't reach me, they would have reached out to one of the people they know is around me if they absolutely needed my attention. This person hasn't been around for long enough to know how much I basically hate my telephone.
Texting is empty and I don't like it. I want to talk to them. I want to have a conversation. I don't want to feel weird sending 5 texts because I could say that in 2 minutes or less.
Yeah. Hey, Greg.
Hi.
Hey, Greg.
Just wanted to chime in.
Make it.
Yeah. It was. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but I'm here for the last 5 minutes.
No, we're at 5.
We're still going. It's probably going to be a longer stream.
Yeah, I was gonna say I still got one more question or one more statement for the second style, and one more attachment style to go through, and then we're by the time we're done with this, we're not even going to be at page 50 of this book. Like, we're not going through the whole book, but
No, this is definitely eye-opening.
yeah, there's one of the reasons that I was so excited when Hydro Girl brought this up. I was like, oh my god, this is so much fun to learn about, and I just started doing it. I want to talk to everyone about this.
You're able to definitely bring your thoughts and this book into it, and you'll have to tell everybody again, either through Peach in the chat, or we could get the book title and author.
It is Polysecure, Attachment, Trauma, and Consensual Non-Monogamy by Jessica Fern.
And I know this is more, the book is centered more with polyamorous relationships, but
They get into it in the later parts of it, but like honestly, like the first couple of chapters are just an exploration of attachment theory and how it's come forward in the past 40 years or so.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I was going to say a lot of this does touch base with regular, well, not
Yeah.
regular, but
Monogamous relationships. It sure does, because the whole theory was created during a time when monogamy was pretty much the only thing that was considered a healthy relationship, and it was created by monogamous people to explain, issues in monogamous relationships. But if there's a place where stuff like this would matter more than in monogamy, it's definitely in any form of ethical non-monogamy. Like, it's particularly thinking about the concept of, like, okay, I need to feel secure in my attachment to this person because this person is going to be spending a week, across town with this other person. If we don't have a secure attachment, this is going to be hell for one of us at least.
So what I've read back when I started looking into this was that actually a lot of us who are the anxious attachment actually, and I don't know why, but we somehow are attracted to the avoidant attachment style, and it tends to create a lot of chaos.
Yes.
So I'm hearing other folks are
Yes.
they get that, they feel that.
We're very alike, Hydra Girl.
Any idea why that would be? That doesn't seem
Misery
intuitive.
loves company. I don't know.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think we seek, right, our attachment styles, right? Whatever that other person has is something we're seeking out. And I think our own anxieties get triggered by it. And so we revert back to the opposites, right? Rather than
seeing someone else appear to be able to be emotionally
self-reliant.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
I got you, bud.
So the part where they said, or the avoidant one, when you said, have you ever heard yourself say, I don't know what I want and I don't know what I'm going to do and I just don't know. Well, that would be the very conversation I had with the person that pulled away. They don't know what they want. I know exactly what I want.
Yeah, that's actually something from later in the book. They bring up the concept of the it's the reacher and the runner. It was one of the most common kind of dysfunctional relationship situations that can happen.
This because that's the dynamic.
Yeah. You've got one person who is trying really, really hard to support and promote the relationship and push it forward. The other person is trying to keep things, at arm's length and under control, and where they can understand and analyze it. And so the one sees the other person is running away from them, so they keep chasing. And the other sees the person is smothering them, and they keep running, and it's a cycle that just keeps going.
When you were chasing at this point, I was ready to walk away because I was fed up with it. I deserve to be treated a little better than that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, when somebody's talking to you regularly and then they all but disappear, and several days go by and there was an open invitation to go out together on a date and they don't even bother to let you know they're not going to get together with you, and then they text you the next morning after the event. Oh, that absolutely infuriated me. I was so angry. I thought they had fully stripped me at that point, and now they had the gall to text me.
That's pretty rough.
So that was, I guess that's that weird dynamic, and I wanted to get real, nasty about it. I was so upset, and friends of mine told me to let it go. And clearly, we have different communication styles, and at that point, instead, I just straight up laid it out on a table, and I said, "Look, I need more attention than this. If you want my attention, you need to tell me, because I'm done chasing. Because I would like more of yours. This is not enough."
Yep. All right. So the last little blurb I had, the last little statement I had for anxious preoccupied style for those of you who relate. This is a statement you may relate to. I do well with the transition from being alone to being together with partners, but I struggle when going from being together to being alone again.
Definitely.
And I mean, that's something I feel a lot of people have trouble with. That rings true for me a lot too.
Absolutely life-changing devastation.
I feel I've been more than I've been with somebody, so I don't know if I've only ever had to split away from somebody one time as far as a long-term relationship, so I don't actually know.
I think
Let's say,
that's more
like,
in the short term of like being with someone and then they go out to get groceries more than
yeah,
they disappear forever.
yeah, or your partner comes over, but then they have to go home. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, so we're not talking about living in and being with somebody for a long stretch of time.
Okay.
Well, I mean, or you're living with somebody, but they have to go to work. I mean, the more the concept of just the transition from that short term period of I'm going to be alone to that short term period of I'm going to be like, hey, you're here now. I have trouble with both of those transitions. I don't do well going from alone to with people, but I also don't do well going from having people around to being by myself. There's a big mental transition that has to happen for me for either of those situations. So
I have an issue
I'm
with
okay
one,
on
but not the
this
other.
one. I'm okay on this one. I can be alone. I can be with people. If they leave, I'm fine. I'm okay there.
okay. Well,
Um,
go ahead.
for mine, I have an easy transition to get to, being around people, depending on the situation, obviously. But the transition away is, I mean, I have masked it quite a bit so as not to cause issue. Um, I know what's important for that person and will, you know, side with that. Like, they have to go to work. It's like, okay, I'll miss you. I wish you didn't have to go, but, you know, I will err on the side of, logic when it comes to that. But sometimes it's harder for me to actually say goodbye, and I need to be more open about that without, making it a negative situation every time they have to leave.
Definitely. Well, it's certainly something. It's certainly something that is really, really, it's really tough to handle for a lot of people. Hydra Girl, I'm really glad that that's not something that you struggle with because I mean, like I said, coming from the side where I struggle both with having my own time and then having other people come into my time, and also having time with other people, but eventually people have to go home. And like honestly, I can handle either state just fine, but that transition between is man, it's awful sometimes.
I think it was actually part of something I've already been through as to why I'm able to, I guess, compartmentalize my time. I once devoted entirely too much time to a person and bent over backwards, and they, worked nights and slept during the day, and I worked days, and well, I was the one sacrificing all of my sleep. And it made me excessively sick because I was already an insomniac. And so it was probably my worst mental breakdown I ever had from all the lack of sleeping. Only to find out they weren't even serious about me. So I was sacrificing all of this for literally nothing. So that probably also plays into why I have some anxious attachment issues. So after that, I spent a lot of time alone, especially when I moved away. I moved to Austin and I was there by myself. I didn't have really any friends and I had no money because I just got out of college. I didn't make much money and it was so expensive. So I had to learn how to, entertain myself at home. And then when I moved back here, my social life blossomed. I started dancing and got in the troupe, and I made a lot of friends, and I had all these different things to do and people to see where I wasn't, literally having to attach myself to one person or one thing to meet my needs. I no longer had that concept of all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
And so I think that helped me significantly not be so, anxious. And that was actually a conversation I had with the guy I was dating. Was he was afraid that I was going to expect him to entertain me. And I'm like, oh no, I've got lots of things to do.
No, I got this. Don't worry. I've got toys. Okay.
We've got some comments in the chat. Peach said this is pertaining to the going from being around people to being alone or vice versa. She said that is super hard for me. The transition period is hard for me, but I usually let my partners know or I reach out to a meta and ask if they can just send
Yeah.
it to me. And
Yep.
go ahead and explain to the audience what meta is, because not everybody knows how
Okay.
to explain it.
Well, your amour is the person that you are in a relationship with. Your paramour will often be another person you're in a relationship, but your metamour will be the person that someone you're in a relationship is in a relationship with. In other words, you're not necessarily dating this person, but you're connected through the fulcrum of somebody you are dating.
Okay. So in layman's terms, her boyfriend's girlfriend type of thing.
Yeah, it's
Or
in
husband's
the
girlfriend or whatever.
yeah, exactly. It's I'm not romantically attached to this person, but we are still definitely connected. And a lot of times people will use metamor because it's a lot easier than saying, "Oh yeah, I'm friends with my wife's boyfriend." Just be like, "Yeah, that's my metamor," and people will be like, "Oh, okay." And people who don't know will just be like, "What's that word? You used a strange word," and then you just look at them and say, "Don't worry about it, young one."
I like that.
Okay, so the last of the original insecure attachment styles is known as the disorganized / fearful avoidant attachment style. And skipping over the childhood stuff again because God, there's a lot for this one. In adulthood, the disorganized attachment style is referred to as fearful avoidant. People with this style of attachment experience a clashing fear of either being too close or too far away from their partners. People with this insecure attachment style have the characteristics of both the dismissive and preoccupied styles. Their desire for closeness and their longing for connection are active, but because they have previous experience of the ones they loved or depended on hurting them, they tend to feel uncomfortable relying on others or are even paralyzed by the fear that speaking their feelings and needs could be dangerous and make things worse.
Yep.
They might request attention from a partner, but then withdraw when connection is offered, or, in more extreme manifestations, they might demand attention or affection and then attack or criticize their partner when what they want is given. People with this style are easily overwhelmed by their feelings or subject to what is called emotional flare-ups, where their intense emotional states can take over, disrupting their ability to function, and at times taking others down with them.
Yep.
Due to their history of trauma, their sense of self and others have been impaired. When trauma occurs, there is a rupture with the foundational relationship a person has with their self. This severed internal relationship with their self needs to be restored so that the person can go on to trust and value themselves, as well as begin to trust others again. When this type of healing has yet to occur, people functioning from the fearful avoidant attachment style will tend to see themselves as broken and unworthy, and will expect that others are untrustworthy or will only hurt them in the end. In more extreme cases, this attachment style is associated with high relationship turmoil, dissatisfaction and toxicity, self-destructive behaviors, relationship abuse, mental illness, and addictions.
All of the above. And yes, Peach, I too feel called out.
And this is one of the things. So I bring up these 3 attachment styles because basically what the original idea they had was, well, you either have the one where you push them away or the one where you pull them too close, or you got both of them. And that just seems really restrictive to me, but that's the way it was originally thought of. And from what I've noticed with talking to people about this, almost everybody will relate to one or the other of the first 2, but everybody will to some extent relate to the third one.
Yeah, I definitely relate to the calling out for attention and then saying no, pushing away. And this is a lot harder to really open up about than I thought. It's kind of
tough. Yeah. Some of the statements. Before we get into personal experiences, I want to get these statements knocked out of the way so we can just talk about this. And this is like the end of chapter 1, essentially. So if you want to bring this topic back at a later date, that's totally fine. But I figure after getting through these statements, we should all just sit down and have a little discussion about what we've learned so far.
Yeah.
But I often don't feel safe or fully trusting in relationships, even if my partner acts in safe and trustworthy ways. I frequently get triggered by things that may seem to come out of nowhere.
Definitely.
When in conflict, I can vacillate from being overwhelmed or aggressive to being dismissive and numb. I can vacillate between different types of chaos or rigidity. Giggity.
Yeah.
When in distress, I have acted in ways that have been harmful to myself or my partners.
Yeah.
Being in a relationship can cause me to become dysregulated, dissociative, or confused. And finally, I frequently experience the conflicting internal drives of wanting to be close and share myself, but fearing that closeness or vulnerability will be dangerous or cause the relationship to end. So that is chapter 1, more or less. It's the Cliff's Notes version of it. But what she's building towards talking about is the fact that they had these 3 little listicle style diagnoses that they had for these different types of, of insecure attachment styles. But one of the things that Jessica has definitely pointed out, and it's not just something that works because she works largely with the, ethical non-monogamous community, but just because mental illness, like I said, is often a spectrum and nothing is static or stable about it. Like, one, there's no template you can use that's going to work for every person who might be experiencing what you're talking about. But 2, even an individual can be experiencing things in a different way on a different day or even from moment to moment. And so having the kind of concept where you take all of those potential things, dismissive, anxious, avoidant, preoccupied, and you slap them onto a whole grid where, for example, at any given moment, a person can sort of place themselves where they're at that grid and then take action to sort of diffuse or to regulate the behaviors or feelings that they're having at that point and get them closer to the middle. Seems like a really good way to go about, at least, on a day-to-day sort of treatment situation.
Yeah. I may need to get that book. This is.
I will get you a copy.
Thank you. This is definitely eye-opening for a lot of things that I thought I was getting a lot better at and didn't realize I'm still really struggling with it. Like I said, I just thought it was just another facet of anxiety. And
Well,
in the chat, Peach is also saying that she relates to the feeling broken and pushing people away. And that
yeah.
last thing you mentioned was super big for her, tending to be either all in or appearing to not care.
Yep.
For me, it's yeah, I'm really upset and everything, but this is a good thing for me to realize and to come to terms with. So for
It is.
anybody listening in, yes, it can be triggering to hear some of these things to cause emotional upset, but part of the healing process is to really come to terms with what's wrong and what's
That's one of the things I was definitely going to point out is growth and getting healthy is rarely a comfortable process. But all of the things that you've gone through that have made you the person that you are now, and all the things that you will go through as you understand that person better and better and get to understand more and more how you can live your fullest life, it's not a comfortable process, but man, when it works, it is so good and it is so freeing to just to know what it is that you're facing, just to have a clear idea of, like, this is what's going on, this is what's happening, and maybe I don't know how to fix it, maybe I'll never fix it, but I can at least get better at handling it.
And also not just putting a name to something, but knowing that it's not just you. It's not just
yes,
doing all of this to yourself. It's a trauma response or
survival response.
And all these things that can coalesce into reactives and yeah. And I know my nose is squeaking when I'm sniffling, so that have fun with that. But Yeah, just all of this has been wonderful, and thank you very much for bringing this up, Hydro Girl, and being able to share your experiences, and Peach sharing yours, Panther sharing yours, and
Of course.
yeah, this has definitely been one of the more intense discussions, I think.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you giving me the floor and letting me, be Professor Panther or whatever the heck they call me now.
Yeah.
Because it's something, like I said, you can see the reasons why somebody passed this book on to me, not only for certain things that I'm working through, but also because they're aware of how many people that I'm dealing with are probably, who can benefit from this, who probably aren't aware of how much, past trauma and adult trauma have actually worked not just into how they're going through their lives now, but directly into the way that they're capable of attaching and connecting with other people.
I also think that's the biggest thing I've gotten out of this conversation is I don't think that I necessarily have one of those three insecure attachment styles. I have plenty of my own problems, don't worry. But
Oh, absolutely.
that I also have how to understand someone else who may have that
Yes.
one or more of those, and to be able to understand some of the why certain behaviors are the way that they are, and being able to
Yes, my
understand
friend.
why other people do things is so important to me. That being able to say, why did you say this and then do that instead? This brings some clarity. It's another tool to understand, to help understand other people.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and to me, that's like a huge thing about mental health awareness. Is if you're a person with mental health, knowing what you're going through not only can help you to deal with it, but can also help you to express to other people what you're going through, so that those people around you who care about you can, if they can't directly help, at least make sure to not be an active harm for your situation. And for people who aren't experiencing mental health problems, it's good to still have awareness of how these things work and how they can affect other people, so that if you're confronted with these sort of situations, again, you can make sure that even if you can't be directly and actively helpful, you can make sure not to make the situation worse for somebody if they're having a crisis, and if they're panicking or freaking out, or even if you're being faced with aggression that seems to come from nowhere. Like, if you actually kind of understand more where a person might be coming from, it'll allow you to de-escalate that aggression without anyone having to get hurt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in the chat,
Or-
real quick, Peach said, I love you guys, and I know this helps a lot. It'll let people in. It's hard for me sometimes, but I care. I'm just scared a lot of times to let people know the real me, and I can definitely,
It's like super.
I can definitely relate to that. And sometimes it is hard to bare your soul, so to speak. But
Well, for both of you lovely ladies, I can say that I know at least as much of the real you as you've been capable of showing me, and that I absolutely adore you and think that you're both wonderful people. So keep up the good work.
thank you. And it is good to be recognized for some of the work that's been done and how hard the process has been. And I know it's not easy to admit to ourselves that we've made progress when we constantly are our own worst critics. But yes.
Now, yeah, I'm a great big scumbag, but like I'm well spoken, I guess. So that's good.
You're not a scumbag. And Hydra Girl, again, thank you very much for sharing. I know you've been struggling a lot recently with some of the panic disorder issues during COVID and these attachment things. I now know a side of you that I didn't realize. So, yes, thank you for sharing.
We are the world.
Hi.
People.
You don't have to go that far. But,
Oh, come on! Can we get a good rousing kumbaya?
I'm currently ending my last day of quarantine because my dance student that was supposed to perform with me over the weekend woke up sick and she tested positive for COVID.
Oh
And I was very much in close proximity with her without a mask. So,
Well, congratulations on ending the quarantine. Yay!
yay! I did not get sick. Yeah. No, as far as my panic and anxiety, woo! I had another triggering event. Don't we love them?
Oh, yes, definitely. But just to let everybody here and the viewers know, just reiterating, this is a safe space. And if you ever feel the need to reach out or contact, you can message me at on Twitch. You can message me on Twitter, Instagram, um, Facebook. Uh, what's the other one? I had another one. Where is it? Oh,
Discord?
The Discord server, and all of them have the same spelling. On the Discord server, it's Get Dreadbane, based off of my gaming stream. But in terms of reaching out to me for mental health, you can reach me at any of the contacts. You can use the QR code to scan that and get all of those contacts. My email as well is gmail.com. You can, and it's spelled the same, the Living Dead Cat with the 3 instead of the E. I am not a licensed professional, and I know that advice given for mental health can be taken with a grain of salt sometimes.
I think I'm
If
retiring.
you need someone to just vent, you can reach out on the Discord server. We have a safe space area where you can just rant and let it sit there, or you can rant and then delete your account. It doesn't matter as long as you get it out of your head. So,
Somebody here.
let me go ahead and post the Discord server link again.
Can I gush about merch for a second?
Go ahead, and then Gray can gush about the Discord server.
I think you
Stickers! A little bit. Stickers and shirts and mugs and coasters and stuff. We're gonna have it soon. We're manufacturing Dragon Panther Studios merch. We've got a few tester shirts that are going to be going out mostly to the original streamer crew. Those are going to be the OG shirts. Yeah, within the next 6 weeks, we should actually have merch to sell. And they will also be given away with people who donate to the GoFundMe. So, yeah.
For the proceeds of the merch, is that going towards the GoFundMe, or is that going towards just the general account for the company to continue doing what they're doing?
At least at first, until we start getting in a reasonable stream of donations, we are probably going to take every bit of merch that is sold to us, funnel it into the GoFundMe as though it were, in fact, a donation, because it is still, I mean, we're still using all of this as operation costs. All of our operation costs are going to be going through the GoFundMe just to help us make that, $250,000 mark. So...
That's DragonPantherStudios.com. You can see their GoFundMe on the website. And if Gray is still lurking around, if you want to give a shout out for the Discord server, the Sanctuary.
Yes, the Sanctuary is a safe place for all peoples of all walks of life. It doesn't matter, your sexual identity, doesn't matter your culture, it doesn't matter anything. It's a place for all of us. Usually I would go into a spill that's funny, but I kind of feel like it's out of place in this one. Like somebody made a comment earlier about people who leave, and then I was going to be like, just like Dad.
Oh, yeah.
All right, son, I'm going out to get cigarettes. I'll be back in 40 years.
Oh, yeah. There's something to be said about people who suffer from mental health issues. We have very dark, twisted senses of humor.
We laugh to hide the pain.
Yes, pretty much.
Can I tell an inappropriate Harry Potter joke?
Go ahead.
So, Hagrid walks up to Harry and he says, "Knock, knock." And Harry goes, "Who's there?" And Hagrid goes, "Not your parents."
Aww.
And Harry's like, "Why do you keep doing this to me?" And Hagrid's like, "Because they told me to." And Harry's like, "Who?" And he says, "Not your parents."
Aww. It's like the Batman jokes at this point.
I mean, it is. No, it's
Mother's Day.
Putting flowers on her grave?
Yeah. I need to do that, by the way. I need to go up to Oklahoma and put some flowers on Mom's grave at one point. If I can remember where it is. Nobody ever actually told me. So, we'll figure it out eventually. Anyhow. Oh, what was that, Gray?
Is there a registry?
I have to look into that. I think there was. It was
There you
a
go.
long time ago. But, yeah, I'll look into it. That's for another discussion. I think that may be the topic for next week is death and the effects on mental health. That could
In parentheses, is David Lee Roth immortal?
Say again?
In parentheses, is David Lee Roth immortal?
I don't know if I would put that for David Lee Roth, but definitely Keith Richards.
Keith David.
Give Keith Richards coronavirus, he'll come up with a vaccine real quick.
Oh, guaranteed. He's probably already.
I'm saying, Keith Richards, sure. David Lee Roth, sure. But Keith David is the only one who deserves to be immortal.
Yes, but fair warning for next week's topic. If it is decided to do the topic of death and the effects on mental health, of deaths of loved ones, friends, things like that, this could be a heavy triggering stream. Join into the discussion and listen in with your own mental health in mind. If it's not going to be something you think you can handle listening to or participating in, you will not be judged or any kind of judgment. Nothing will be held against you for taking care of your own mental health. So
Not at all.
I do appreciate everyone who comes in to view my videos, but if it is something that will be too triggering for you, please take care of yourself. And
Don't get caught in the trauma.
emotional damage.
Emotional damage.
Hey guys, I have a candlestick and a bad idea.
What?
Just thought I was going to break apart the uncomfortableness.
Okay. Real quick, giving some more shout outs to Spanner and the Works. They do DJ live on streams, both on Twitch and YouTube, and I believe Facebook. They're the reason why I got into streaming in the first place. So thank you to them. Shout out to the Tower of Issa for creating my VTuber avatars. Absolute wonderful work. You should give them a shout. Kay Appleby for helping make my banner, Kitsue. I will be doing another guest stream, I believe this Sunday, with Kitsue. So, and then of course DPS, also known as Dragon Panther Studios, working on digitizing the logo some more. So,
Yep.
and again, thank you everybody who was able to participate tonight, and take care of yourselves.
2 more random things.
Yes.
1, listen to Davy Crockett and the Wild Frontier on Spotify. And 2, I forward the topic of masking in a psychological sense for a future topic.
Yes.
Ooh,
Not-
yes.
Apparently, we've got a unanimous vote. If the death of friends and loved ones isn't going to be done next week, we will go to masking.
Cool, that's something I'm actually an expert about.
So give us a brief idea of what is masking.
It is when you, for example, slap a smile on your face and say it's okay, or when you mirror somebody in order to make them comfortable or make yourself more comfortable, or any time when actually you're going out of your way to put forth something not genuine in order to control or to de-escalate a situation.
Or to
Okay.
suppress feelings or tendencies that you're otherwise actually feeling.
Yes.
You know, I do
Yeah,
that a
well,
lot
well,
in
yes,
the
yes.
kind of thing.
This was brought up during the autism and being on the spectrum stream as well, so we will definitely go
Yep.
into more detail with that in a future stream.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I look forward to hearing about that one.
All right, guys, I think I'm going to call it here. It is now 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, so
Long stream.
yay!
Good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you again. Take care of yourselves, and I'll sketch you later.